Hello, everybody. My name is David Keck, and this is Surviving Abuse Podcast.
I don't understand why it was me. I don't know if I'll ever be the same. Is the same what I want anyway? You took what I thought I could never get back. Quit holding on to the anger. I broke down just to begin again. I can't wait any longer. I'm back. Taking the good, kissing the bad goodbye. Now I'm back, and I'll pray for you. I'm done hurting. We hold on to the anger, won't let you win any longer. Then we begin again. Now I'm back, and I'll pray for you. I'm done hurting.
This episode is going to be a little different than what we've done before. I am sure everyone is familiar with the documentary Tiger King and Joe Exotic that was a part of that documentary. And I have been contacted by Tammy Springer, who is his power of attorney. And she had contacted me and wanted to share some things that's going on with him in prison. And it seems that it's been quite a rough ride for him, and that, maybe the documentary was a little misleading. Tammy, thank you so much for joining us. How are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
May we start with how you got involved with Joe Exotic?
It's real simple. I just wrote him a letter in prison after I watched Tiger King. So I didn't even know who he was until then, like most people.
Right.
And I watched it, and it really bothered me by the ending. And I didn't think that he was guilty, and that it was just, I just felt like he needed help. So I just started writing him letters, and we started corresponding that way. Wow. And then we started emailing, and then I started helping him do things. And then he asked me to start a website for him and an online store. So I did that. And so it just kind of has grown. I've been with him for 2 years now. And then when he had a power of attorney before, but he decided he wanted to change, and he also changed his lawyer as well. So when he was changing that, he made me power of attorney. That was last December. So I haven't been since December 1st. I've been power of attorney for him too.
Wow. So, one thing that I hate about media and certain TV shows or documentaries is you don't know who the financial backing is, and whoever the financial backer is going to kind of determine how the documentary is presented.
Absolutely.
And it's so easy to look at something and say, this guy's horrible. And I've even heard someone say, and honestly, with what I know, which may not all be true, but one thing that I will be honest and say, and maybe you'll change my mind on this, is that to me, it seemed like maybe he wasn't the best guy. But that doesn't mean someone deserves to be in prison. And it doesn't mean that, if he is guilty of things, that he should be the only one that's in prison. I feel like so many things were put on him to take the blame and guilt for that may not have been completely him or him at all.
I would never say he's not the best guy, because I think he's pretty great. But but he's not perfect. That's for sure.
Sure, who is?
Nobody is.
Right.
And I do want to point out the fact that the other people that were involved in setting him up, that were in Tiger King, Jeff Lowe and James Garrettson and Carole Baskin and all of them. Well, not Carole, but she was instrumental in it. But these other people all are felons. They all have records. They're all known felons. And Joe never had anything against him in his life. So that tells you something, I think.
Yeah. I felt, I'm an open gay man, and I felt such a connection with him in ways, especially when in the documentary, one thing that I think that they did do well if it's true, and again, this is all based on what I know, right? So always feel free to correct me.
Right.
But there was the parts of the documentary of him coming out and how much he hated himself, and the situation with his father, it's so heartbreaking. And one of the things that I do focus on in my show is the mental health of things, and how, what is that core that brings people into sometimes an ugly road that they go down. And to hear his story in the accident that he was in, it broke my heart for him.
Yeah, I mean, if you read his book, some of it's in his book, and he's working on another book right now, a second book, because the first one was heavily edited. He wasn't very happy with it, so he wants to get his story out there more truthfully. But he was abused as a child. He grew up in an abusive home, with his parents fist fighting with his siblings, and sexual abuse, and just a lot of abuse. So he's been around abuse a lot. And then coming out, when he came out, he was outed by his brother. Mm-hmm. So that was very difficult for him to have to deal with that with his parents when he wasn't ready to do that. He healed the relationship with them eventually, and it was okay. But I mean, that made him suicidal at the time. And he was a police officer at the time. And he crashed his car into a bridge trying to kill himself and had very severe injuries. So he actually had to go to Florida to do like saltwater therapy and stuff for a year just to recover from that. And then that's when he started being introduced to exotic animals, because there was somebody that was his neighbor that, I forgot exactly, but I don't know if he had a pet store or he had one of those zoos or safaris or something, but he had exotic animals. So he started having contact with tigers and animals like that, and he really liked it. I mean, he always had loved animals because he grew up on a ranch in the country, but that's when he started working at a pet store, and then moved to Texas and opened his own pet store with his husband of the time and his brother. So he had a pet store in Arlington, Texas for a long time, and a lot of discrimination too, because he and his husband ran the store, and they would have the rainbow flags on the outside and stuff like that. So, I mean, he's always had to fight just to be who he is,
Yeah. That really, broke my heart for him. And how does he feel about the way that was presented in the documentary? Because to me, as an outsider looking in, it brought him to life for me. I was able to relate to him, and it kind of opened up doors for me to understand where there may have been that connection with animals, because it was something for him to bond to. I feel like he had good intentions, and sometimes those, intentions can get blurred with money and assholes,
Well, and desperation. In his case, he had so much responsibility with all those animals to keep them alive, to keep them healthy. His employees, it was just a huge responsibility. And when you have financial troubles and all these living things are depending on you, I mean, you do desperate things. And that's how he got involved with Jeff Lowe and all that mess, just out of desperation.
One thing that I will say that I liked about Joe is he seemed to bring in the people that didn't have anywhere else to go. When you had, the transgender person, and I'm sorry, I'm blanking on his name, but
his name is Saf.
Yes. Like it was kind of like he was bringing in the underdogs and was like, these animals and feel love, and I really appreciated that, because little acts like that saves people's lives and helps people's mental health. And I'm sure it would, helped him some too. Yeah.
I mean, it helped him find people to live on the zoo, because a lot of these people had nowhere to go. Right. And really, to take care of animals, you kind of have to live there. I mean, I've been to the zoo. Well, it's not a zoo anymore, but it's out in the middle of nowhere, So, the people have to pretty much live there. And he had trailers on site where they would live. And to take care of animals is 24/7, really, all the time.
Yeah. So, it's definitely an endless.
So that's how he found people that were down and out and had nowhere to go. And they just wanted somewhere to stay and wanted something purposeful to do,
Yeah. Yeah. I wondered when I was watching the documentary, because they would want to make it sound like he was doing this thing, but that it was with bad intent. And
No.
I questioned myself, like I remember asking myself, like, is that really true? Like are there parts of the documentary that you can kind of set us straight on having this relationship with him, where he's like, look, this was not right?
The famous part where Saf loses his arm.
Uh-huh.
Um, the documentary cut and spliced that to make it look like he was concerned about money, and he got really famous for saying, "I'm never going to financially recover," right? But I have the original video. It's on his official website. Actually, you can watch it, the whole thing uncut, and it's pretty graphic, and it shows the whole thing, what happened. And he had worked in a nursing home. He was an EMT before he was a police officer. So, and he did a lot of medical stuff with the animals too. So he knew what to do in that situation. The original video shows him coming in, applying the tourniquet, the bandages, just giving orders to everybody to clear the driveway, to call the ambulance and the helicopter or whatever. He saved Saf's life. And that's why Saf went right back working and didn't try to file a claim, because Saf knew without Joe, he probably would have died.
Wow.
It doesn't show that he was a hero. It doesn't show that because of him, everyone's standing around in shock, not knowing what to do, and he leaps into action and saves him. So that really should be shown. And that was not shown in Tiger King. It made him look kind of like a jerk.
Yeah, I agree. And that was kind of...
Oh, and that EMT jacket he wore wasn't just for looks. He actually was an EMT at one time.
Oh, wow.
That was real.
Wow.
It wasn't like, oh, I'm pretending to be an EMT.
Yeah. Well, I'm so glad that you're clearing this up for me, because I mean, like I said, I wanted to be honest with you in the beginning, and my thought with what I knew, which granted I'm open-minded enough and educated enough to know that what I know is probably not the truth, And so there was that part of me that was like, is he a bad guy? And like you said, we're not all perfect. Of course, we're going to make mistakes, but does that make you a bad guy, or does that mean you messed up a time or two? You know what I mean? So I'm glad that you're kind of clearing that, or that you are clearing that up for us. So tell us about the real life Joe.
Actually, we've never met in person. I did go to his hearing and I did see him in person, but he wasn't allowed to talk to me. Mm-hmm. The real life Joe, he's very, very generous. He has a huge heart. I love that about him, but I mean, he's, if you've seen his videos that he's made, he made a lot of presidential campaign videos when he was running for president and governor, and about Carole Baskin and the animal rights people. So he does like to be heard, and he likes to get his voice out there. And he's very, I don't know how to say this without making it sound bad. I don't think it's bad, but he's very critical of a lot of things that happen. And he like right now, the situation is the corruption in the justice system and the abuse in prison is horrific. And he's trying to get his voice out there. That's what I'm trying to do for him. So he's always been that way, just kind of like a champion for the underdog, I guess, is what I want to say. Yeah. Always trying to bring the truth out.
Yeah.
So.
And I don't think that your comment painted it in a negative or bad way at all. I think that we are all critical about things. And to me, that just shows that he's passionate and believes in what he believes. And if he feels that something is wrong, he's going to make a stand for it. I don't think that paints him as a bad person at all.
That's the good word, passionate. He's very passionate.
Yeah.
And he's very dedicated.
Yeah.
When he has a cause, he's very dedicated to it. Like he is, I don't want to say stubborn because that sounds negative, but he's just very, very focused.
Right.
He was the Carole Baskin and Don Lewis and all that, and that's what got him into a lot of trouble, because he thought that he knew what the truth was, and he wanted the truth out there, and he wanted justice to be done. And so he just kept talking about it. And, Carole wanted to stop him. So for good reasons, she didn't want to get caught. Right. I mean, we still think she killed Don Lewis, but
Yeah. I know that the main cause for us to be here and what I definitely want to spend a lot of time on is, where he is now and the
Right.
awareness he's trying to bring for abuse. But before we do that, with Carole Baskin being mentioned, is there anything that you can say about that situation to enlighten us some on as far as their relationship?
Well, I try not to talk about her too much.
Sure. Fair
She
enough.
loves to sue people.
Fair
That's
enough.
like her hobby.
Fair enough. We can move.
They don't have a relationship.
Right. I was just curious if how the documentary.
I want to say this though. The whole reason why Joe made all those videos about her and why he was trying to expose her is because she stalked him and attacked his livelihood, which affected his ability to run a zoo and feed his animals and everything. So it was very personal. And for her, it was all about what she thought was a cause, and she thinks she's right about everything. She's a very arrogant person. I mean, she has emailed me a few times, and I know from firsthand experience, she's a very arrogant person.
Yeah.
She thinks that her way is the only way, and everybody else, she just has to always win. That was her mission, to put him out of business.
Yeah.
So, that's why they've always been at odds for years.
Sure. One thing that I will say that struck a nerve with me as far as Carole and the documentary is, I have worked for many people, and especially when I was the people's age that was interning at her farm. And when she was like, I won't talk to them until they're in a certain color shirt because that's when I know they've been around for a while. I was just so disgusted with that.
And they work for free.
Yeah. And if my boss, even in the job that I'm in today, and when I, have been in management, if I need you to clean the toilet, I'm going to be cleaning the toilet while asking you to help me. And I'm going to know your name, and I'm going to have that relationship with people. And I expect my CEOs to do the same with me. And when she said that, I was just so disgusted with that.
and Joe's the total opposite.
Yeah.
From what I've heard. And from what I know about him, he wouldn't ask anyone to do anything that he would do himself.
Yeah.
And that's why he's so frustrated now in prison, because there's so many things he wants to do and he can't. Trying to get a team of people together that are dependable and capable and he has very high standards, So, I mean, he would do anything himself. He wouldn't ask anyone to do anything that he wouldn't do.
Yeah.
And he's always been a very hard worker. So he's not arrogant at all.
Right.
Like she is.
And one thing that I noticed too is the documentary kind of showed that, but it was one of those things that I questioned, like, because he does it so much, that's a part of his everyday life, is getting down and dirty with everybody.
Yeah.
There was no way for them to cut and edit that out, or they wouldn't have a show. He would never have been on camera, so they were not able to taint that too much. And I did notice that about him, as he was up in the mornings with his clothes on and ready to go do what he needed to do. And there was no way to edit that out. And I did recognize that. Documentary aside now at this point, what I was so heartbroken when your PR person, maybe the one that set us up, sent me the links of the abuse and trauma that he's suffering in prison. And this has kind of made him want to use his platform, because he has a platform even in prison, and he's wanting to use that the best to his ability to change stuff. So tell us about that. Okay.
I'm not sure exactly what she sent you, but where do I start? I mean, it's just, he wants me to say that, with all this stuff going on now with these people in Russia, like Brittany Griner and other people that are being detained in other countries, there's so much outrage about that. But we need to look at what we're doing here to our people in American prisons. It's just as bad, if not worse. And I don't think a lot of people know that.
Yeah.
All the focus is, oh, it's so terrible, she's in this Russian prison. You should see the prisons here and what happens to people. Like right now we are running a billboard campaign. We have one near the University of Delaware, because that's Joe Biden's hometown, that has a picture of Joe when he was first detained in Grady County in Oklahoma. That's before he got sent to federal. He was in the Marshall custody. So they're investigating that now, finally, after all this time. It's happened several years ago. About they tied him to a chair. I mean, it's the whole story is that, and this was a staff, they told him, oh, you're in prison now. So I don't know if I can say graphic things on here. Can I?
Absolutely. Yeah. It's open, fair game. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I'll tell you exactly what he emailed me to say. I mean, I know it, but I'll tell you in his words. I was put in a closet with a guard at Grady County Jail, made to get naked. And then he told me I was going to learn how to suck a lot of dick, including his, now that I'm a convict. So he was sexually abused.
Yeah.
And that didn't work out because he resisted. So he was left in a shower that was dark, tied to a chair for days, I think weeks, long time, naked, totally naked, tied to a chair until his skin came off his wrists and he was bleeding. And he somehow managed to get pictures of that. And that's what's on the billboard.
Wow.
And the billboard says, "Stop the abuse, pardon Joe Exotic." I mean, he has an appeal now. He's getting his appeal oral arguments are in September. They've also we're waiting for the motion for a new retrial. The judge has to decide if we'll do a retrial. So we're waiting on that as well. So he's doing legal things, but he's also asking for a pardon as well. So that's why we're doing the billboards. And it has the link to the motion with all the evidence, the new evidence. Some of it is in Tiger King 2. The witnesses that recanted their testimony and perjured themselves and admitted that they set him up, all that. But the abuse part, he wants it out there because he's saying it's not just him.
Right.
They did it to a kid named Justin Tao at the same jail he was at. And that kid hung himself and killed himself in the cell. And he was like, I don't know, young 20s, he was a young guy. And there was never any justice for him either. So he's trying to speak up for all the people that were abused, killed, just the conditions are horrible in there. He caught hepatitis A when he was there because it was so filthy. Just, body waste, on the walls, on the floor, just bad conditions. So that's what he's trying to bring attention to. And not only that, just the corruption of the staff bringing in all kinds of contraband, drugs, phones, you name it, and they sell it for high prices to inmates. And then, and if they want to, they can always get them in trouble for it because they know they have it. So it's kind of like this situation where they're desperate. So they pay a lot of money. I think the going price for a cell phone now is $3,000 in prison. And we're talking about a burner phone, not a nice phone.
Right.
And they'll pay it because they want that communication. And they denied them so much in prison. They just want to talk to their loved ones. And then, if they get mad at them or they get in trouble, then they take their phone away, then they put them in solitary. Then they get in trouble and then they resell it to somebody else. It's just corruption left and right.
Wow.
So that's part of the abuse is the corruption they have to stop.
Yeah.
But I think that he's targeted also because he's gay.
Yeah.
He has some staff that have said, the last time he got in trouble for something that he didn't even do, and it was something about paperwork his lawyer had given him, and then they ended it, and he saw the paperwork, and they said he was trying to circumvent the mail or whatever. It was dumb. It wasn't even anything he did. For that, he got put in solitary for months. He got his email taken away, his commissary. And right before that happened, the guard said, "Oh, I didn't know you have tattooed eyeliner." Like that was like a problem. She said, "We're going to have a problem, and I'm going to have to make sure I write you up a lot." She told him that because he had tattooed eyeliner. So, see, this is what he deals with, and even with the other inmates, I mean, he's been accepted by the Hispanic and the Black community in prison, but not the whites because they're so homophobic.
Wow.
I mean, we're to the point where he can't go in the common room to watch TV or play cards or be with them because he has to stay in his room because they segregate him. I mean, right now, I think he's finally at the point where he's able to do that, but he hasn't been able to, and only because he's gay.
Right.
Yeah.
So when those privileges get taken away from him, with you all being able to have an emailing, correspondence, I'm sure you don't get any notification, or do you as power of attorney, or is it just,
no.
I'm not hear from him in a week and this isn't normal, I guess he's locked up?
I don't get any notification. I think the lawyers do, but not immediately. I mean, they will get a phone call. When that happened before, I think they get it like maybe the next day. It might be a day or two before they let them know. But if he's put in solitary, I think they have to let him know that.
Yeah. Do you think that a lot of this abuse stems from what people have seen and heard from, the documentary and the media too? Is he getting a lot of hate for that?
I don't know. I mean, Joe's never seen it. He's never seen Tiger King.
Really?
No, I mean, he's heard a lot about it, and he's seen probably photos of it and on TV mentioned maybe, but he's never, I mean, they don't have Netflix there, so he's never been able to see it.
Yeah, that's true.
But I think that I think a lot of the other inmates are kind of starstruck because they know that he's a famous guy,
Right. Wow. I wish that, kind of backtracking a little bit when you were talking about the prisons in America, and how they are probably not as good as people are thinking they may be. Yeah. And I agree with that. One thing that I have said for quite a while is that I wish our prison system in the States was more rehabilitating. And it's not.
Exactly.
They're not teaching anyone how to be a member of society. And it's kind of a money thing, right? When you get out, they know you're coming back, and it's just more money. It's a snowball effect. It
is a money thing. I mean, I studied criminal justice for grad school. I actually only did it for a year because I was so disgusted with it. I mean, just if you study criminal justice, you're basically studying prisons. And my focus is kind of women in prison and how they, chain them to the bed to give birth to pregnant inmates. And it's just horrible things that they do to people. And I couldn't do it. I switched to business. I got a business degree. Yeah. But yeah, so I've always been kind of a criminal justice advocate. I mean, it needs to be reformed. So it is restorative justice and not this idea of punishment, Right. Like we have to punish them. And a lot of people don't have sympathy for prisoners because they think, oh, well, they did something bad. They should be punished. But I would challenge those people to think about, have you ever broken the law?
Right.
Have you ever gone above the speed limit? I mean, I know that's minimal, but have you ever cheated on your taxes?
Right.
Have you ever, there's all kinds of, have you ever shoplifted? I mean, when you start thinking about all the things, nobody's perfect.
Right.
And, I always say that about DUIs, so many people, they might get one DUI and they just have so much stuff they have to go through. What about all the people that just got lucky and just were driving and drinking and never got caught? I mean, tons of people like that. Just because you didn't get caught doesn't mean you didn't do anything.
Doesn't mean you didn't do it. Absolutely.
That's my point.
Absolutely.
And I don't feel that because someone made a mistake in life that they have to be severely punished for years and years. I think that's so archaic.
I agree.
think that there can be justice, but not that way. Not that way.
Yeah. It's kind of like that point I made to you in the beginning is he a bad person or did he do one bad thing? And when I say he, I mean just general population, right? Does that one bad thing make you a bad person and your entire life is just bad? Or did you have a messed up situation that maybe you didn't make the right choice in? And
it could be the situation, or you have to look at a person, everyone's individual, look at their past.
Right.
Were they abused like Joe was? You have to look at their past. Were they abused? Maybe they've made some bad choices because maybe they need rehabilitated or they need some kind of mental help or whatever.
Yeah.
You have to look at helping people, not punishing them. That's my opinion.
Exactly. It's kind of, you got to find the core of it.
And nobody wants to talk about that.
Right.
If it happens to you, you don't want to talk about it. And like right now, it's finally coming to light because he finally has a prisoner advocate named Wesley Todd, who has advocated for other prisoners, and he's taken on his case now. So he's advocating for him. He's kind of like a lobbyist, and he's close with Marco Rubio, and they're investigating this incident. Finally, after a couple of years, they're finally doing it. So and it's called PREA. So it's a thing that they do in prison to try to prevent rape and stuff. So when something happens to you, you're supposed to report it, investigate. Well, he tried to. They didn't do anything. Now they're finally investigating. So they're opening all these old wounds now, and they're putting him through all these examinations and all, talking to the psychologist about what happened to him. So it's been hard. He's been brought to tears having to relive this and talk about it. But he knows he has to do it to bring it to light, to prevent it from happening to other people.
Yeah. What is his goal with the awareness he's trying to bring? Like, what can you tell us about what his end game is hoping to be?
Well, personally, his ultimate goal is to get out of prison.
Sure.
like anybody, probably.
Right.
That's his number one goal. But doing all this, the same reason he kept talking about Carole Baskin and Don Lewis. He just wants justice, he's in there now on the inside. He sees it from the inside. And it's kind of just ripped the blinders off, He always thought that there was justice. He always had faith in our system. Now he doesn't. Now he sees what it's really like. Yeah. And I think he just feels like he wants to expose that, and to the point where they will do something about it, improve it. And Biden has promised that. I think the vice president has also promised that in their campaigning, that they're going to do criminal justice reform, that they're going to pardon a lot of people, which they haven't really lived up to that. So he's trying to bring attention to those things.
Sure. So what could we, the listeners of this podcast, the listeners to other, podcasts that you've been on to help spread his truth, right? What could we do as a community to maybe help? Is there anything we can do?
There's so many things, as far as what? As far as getting him out of prison, or as far as changing the justice system? I'm not sure what you're asking.
Yeah, well, I guess I'm kind of asking both, because if he is wrongfully in prison, then of course I'd hate the thought of that and would want him free. But I also like that, if he is in there, he is in there, and while he's in there, knowing it's not going to be a forever thing, he's learning these things and is saying, here's a justifiable reason. Here's a good reason for me to make a change, to turn something ugly into something better. So I guess,
the only thing I can think is, you can always write to your representatives, your Congress people, your senators. I send letters for Joe to politicians all the time. I just send out a whole bunch of packets with the evidence, with the pictures of his wrist bleeding, letters. I sent them to every single senator, some of the Congress people, and some news people too, just to try to get somebody that has influence that can. I think he's trying to get the administration to listen, somebody that can do something. The attorney general, or the director of the BOP, or the president, or, whoever that might be.
When's the last time you talked to him? Like, is he in an okay state of mind right now? Considering the situation?
It depends on the day, I normally I talk to him often. I talk to him about every day. Now he just got his email back finally. He hadn't had it since September, and he just got it back. That's how long I took it away from him. So now that he has email, he's emailing more to save his phone time, because they don't allow you to buy more time. You just have so much and then you're done. Right. So in federal, that's how it is. So he's trying to consider his phone minutes right now. But I get emails from him every day, where I talk to him on the phone, or, so we're in pretty constant communication. I mean, he's holding up, but some days are better than others,
Yeah, of course.
I mean, also because he just went through cancer treatment, so his body's still healing from all the radiation for that. He has other health issues. They're not sure what's wrong with him. He's been vomiting for like 80 days straight, so he's not keeping food down, and they're not really sure what that is. So they're doing a lot of tests. So he has a lot of struggles with his physical, challenges, and also just mental, I think he, for sure has post-traumatic stress because,
Sure.
Just for all the things that have happened to him, and it wasn't just that one incident. That's the one that he's bringing to the attention, but there were way worse things that happened to him in prison. So yeah, prison has changed him forever. He says that a lot. I will never be the same person.
Right.
I mean, in some ways, it's made him more aware of what other people go through. But I mean, I don't think he means that in a good way. It's changed him in a bad way because I think it's sort of killed his soul. I mean, at some point you get kind of just disillusioned and just kind of, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's such a rude
hardened and just defeated.
Sure. Yeah.
Although defeated isn't a word I'd use for him because he's
right.
he's a fighter, and that's what I love about him.
Yeah, absolutely.
But everyone has a limit what they can take.
100%. And it's such a rude awakening too when, growing up, you see a man in uniform or a woman in uniform, and you automatically see that uniform and think, I can trust them. I'm safe right now.
Right.
And then you get put in these situations such as his, and you find that some of those people in uniform, a lot of those people in uniform are the monsters that's been under your bed the whole time. And that's such a rude awakening to even find that everyone thinks the president of America has all this power and I've got the president of America on my side. And then you realize that, does he really have a lot of power?
Yeah,
when it comes down to the state and stuff.
Bureaucracy.
Yeah. Like there's just so many rude awakenings with it. And what terrifies me is, with the cancer, he's already in an unhealthy situation. He's not getting the nutrition. His body is not getting what the nutrition that it needs. And then going through chemo, what little bit of stuff he does have is being injected with poison. And like that's torture.
I want to correct you. He didn't have chemo. He had radiation.
Okay, excuse me. Thank you.
But he had burns and blisters all over his body, and it really affected him internally, so he's still recovering from that.
Yeah. Well, and thank you for correcting me, but either way, the body's just going through so much and it's not getting anything that it needs.
Right.
All the way down to, is the water even that clean? Are the containers they're drinking from, are they really that clean? And that, I hate that for him. And I can't thank you enough for being here today because you really have changed my mind. And that was my goal and my plan when you reached out, because I don't like having negative thoughts on people, especially when I don't know the full story. Yeah. But that's kind of the way that we're trained. We watch the news and we think what was on the news is 100% real until you become a victim of the.
Exactly. And and you can't take that back.
Yeah.
Once something is in the tabloids or it's on TV, it's like the court of public opinion. You can't change it. It's very hard to change.
100%. Yeah. And, I know that his media and my media are completely different levels. But, I kind of felt like I became famous in a small town. I was plastered all over everyone's social media in my town. I was plastered on all the newspapers, on all the news channels, for quite a while. And I started receiving death.
You mean because of the hate crime?
Because the hate crime, yeah. It was very public. And I started getting, death threats, people wanting to finish the job because the media released it stating pretty much gay man goes to straight bar, takes straight men home for sex and gets beat up. That's simply not how that happened. That's simply not the truth. But if anyone sees me to this day, I'm still known as the guy that took some stranger home for sex and got beat up. And that's not the case. It was proven in court, but the media selected what they released. They did not release, let me clarify kind of stuff. So now people have this image of me. And
why would that even be an issue? Even if you did take someone home, they shouldn't beat you up.
right. It would be two consensual adults, period. You know, that's my thought.
That shouldn't even be an issue.
Yeah, right. So before we close out, is there anything else that you can tell us or think that we should know?
Just that, because I do know Joe, he's very misunderstood, like we talked about. And I think a lot of people don't realize what a generous, big-hearted person he is. He's got very old-fashioned values. I know that sounds weird, but he does. He and I are about the same age, so I kind of relate to that. Same generation. Yeah, he's kind of old-fashioned. He thinks you should keep your word, and he thinks that you should help people that need help, and he thinks that there's a lot of value in hard work, and he thinks that things should be fair and just. Unfortunately, they're not. My
wish for him is that he gets out, gets his health back, and has a documentary of the real truth on the Tiger King, and gets to reclaim his name and his title and set all of that straight.
So I guess I want to say one more thing, if I may.
Please.
And that's just for listeners, if they want to know more about Joe, they can watch that video I was talking about, the uncut one, and others, and they can see all the motions that have been filed that have the evidence, and really everything that you want to know about Joe is on his website. And that's joeexoticusa.com.
Taking the good, kissing the bad goodbye.